Hi there, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive. I'm Lynden Hosking, and this is the Boxing Deep Dive show. I'm joined by my co-hosts always, Tazzie Brown and Peter Maniatis. How are we, guys?
Awesome, guys. Great to be on the show.
Now, we've got a big show this week. Yep, thanks, mate. We missed you with the classic fights and the dream fight, so it's great to have you back, mate.
And also, Tazzie, so you know, we've got Ruddick Bowe, Mike Tyson for next week, and we've also, the dream fight is Oscar De La Hoya and Pernell Whitaker. So you got to
that was the classic fight.
You was at that fight, Peter.
Yeah, that was the fight we're going to go over, and the dream fight's Ruddick Bowe versus Mike Tyson. So I'm sure we're all going to have different opinions on that.
So it should be good. But But tonight, as always, we've got our normal segments. So we'll have the Aussie news and the world news coming up. We've got Tazzie's Tirade, don't miss this one. We've got Pete's Slip and Weave. We've got Lyndon's Talking Point, and of course, the quiz. So I'm just trying to stay calm for the quiz tonight. It was a little bit of a write-off last week. It was just a pummeling from you, Pete.
Yeah, I came out like Fennick with Shingaki. I thought I'm not going to leave it to the judges anymore. I'm going to come out and get the early lead.
Well,
but Tazzie came home hard. He came home well. It was a lot like the Edward Rosario question, which was nearly. I was on the ropes when you got that one. I needed to stand an 8 down.
No, that was a good one. Mate, you came out like De La Hoya got the early lead against Trinidad. You boxed beautifully, and I just couldn't close the gap. But I just want to say now, guys, for all our viewers, I want to challenge Peter Maniatis to a karaoke competition one night.
Okay. Lynden will have to be the judge of that too. It'll have to be
what song
on this.
We'll wait till pick one each. Yeah.
Okay. All right. No worries. And the other thing we've got on tonight, which we're really looking forward to, is an exclusive interview with Australia's greatest ever boxer, the one and only Jeff Fenech. So he'll be on a little bit later. We recorded it live. Well, not live. We recorded it from America, where he was over there with Brock Jarvis. So it was a really great interview, and we really appreciate his time. So don't miss that one. So let's get into it, guys. First off, there's been a little bit happening in the Aussie news, Tazzie.
That's correct, mate. It feels like we talk about this every week, but Teofimo Lopez and George Gambosis Thriller's out now. So Gambosis refused to sign the contract for October 16th to be postponed again, which I don't blame him. So Thriller responded by scrapping the fight, which good riddance to Thriller. They've wasted a whole lot of time and money. So now Matchroom, who I believe is the best in the business now, Eddie Hearn, he'll promote the fight likely November the 27th. Looks like it'd be the date in New York. Hopefully is favoured to be the location of the fight. So that's big news. Thank God someone like Eddie now is in charge, and we can finally get this fight. George can finally have his day in the sun, and he's been waiting since June, I believe. So that's really good news. And as I said, good riddance to Thriller. We've got Brock Jarvis will make his American debut in October 17. Trained by my dear friend and former trainer, Jeff Fenech, who I love dearly. So that's against Alejandro Frias Rodriguez in Fresno, California. So Brock is one of our rising stars. He's bound for glory. So how exciting to see him finally in America. And I believe the Americans will love him. He'll be like Ryan Garcia. He's a very good-looking young man that can fight. So, I mean, it's going to be really good. I wish Brock all the best. He's a lovely young man. Obviously, too, Dragon Fire, mate. They got their first show coming up. So their third show of the year, on Friday at the Metro Centre in Perth.
Last Friday. Last Friday.
Tony
Ty Narkle won the WBA Featherweight title.
Oh, geez, hang on. We lost Tazzie there. Hang on. I'm sure he'll come back in there, but he was a bit flustered there, but... We'll see if we get him back. He's just knocked himself out this week. But here he comes back now. We'll get him back in. Are we right there, Tazzie? We're right. No, he's gone again. We can't get him in. Well, I'll finish this one. Ty Narkle won the WA, so the Western Australian Featherweight title with a 4th round technical decision over Richard Lockett. The fight was stopped after an accidental head clash. We'll get Tazzie back here. Where is he? Let's get him in. Where is he? Coming back in there. Have we got him?
I'm here.
There he is. I'm just doing the news for you there, Tazzie. I've just said that Ty Narkle won the Western Australian Featherweight title after the accidental head clash. Who else you got there? It was Dylan Winter also won the state title.
That's correct, mate. Yes, and Sarah Higginson won the vacant bantamweight, Australian bantamweight title, 4th round TKO over Danny Mace. So that's a great show, obviously, by Tony Toge, who's the king of WA. He's a bit like Peter Manianis in Melbourne. So well done to Tony.
No, not as good as Tony. Also, Tony had a sellout as well. I spoke to him today, and all the memorabilia got sold. A Pacquiao glove got sold for $3,000, and a Tyson glove got sold for $3,200. So I'm pretty sure Tony's bank manager would be happy on Monday.
Geez, they do it well, don't they, over there? I mean, Tony with, I know Angelo Hyder's involved, even though he lives on the East Coast. But, geez, they've got such a good model over there. They've pretty much got a monopoly of the whole state. And it's probably because of the work they've done. But, geez, they pack it out every single time. They have great fights on there. They've got all the Western Australian fighters stitched up. So they're doing great things over there. And it's probably a shame that some of the shows don't get televised. Yeah,
Craig Christian was putting on a lot of shows there about 2002, 2003. I actually brought a couple of boxes over for him. And the after party was pretty hectic as well with Craig. You always could party on and then go and have breakfast. You didn't have to use a pillow. It was pretty
good. Isn't it good though that they're putting these shows on with a stacked card, and I think they're all Western Australian fighters, so even better.
Yeah, Tony's got it all worked out. He's got a monopoly, so.
I remember years ago, Peter, 2004, after watching my brother Pierre Caron fight main event on your show, after party Hugo's Lounge, mate. That was your after party for your show, and I remember being a young, fresh Tasmanian, just rocking up to Melbourne, and it was great to be part of it, mate. You know, and that was a good after party, that one.
Yeah, it was. I went into the wee hours. There's no doubt about that one.
I think I went into Monday, I think.
Yeah, Bruce McTavish turned up as well, and Lee Purcell. I remember that one.
I remember
very well.
Yeah. So Tazzie,
he started partying with us as well. Tazzie, the only security guard that partied with us. I think we were all partying.
Yeah,
Tazzie, the Kambosos Lopez fight. Tell us more about that, because surely all the crap that's gone on with this fight, surely I'm thinking tonight, George Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez are both sitting back thinking, okay, we know what's going on now. Eddie Hearn's taken over. We know that everything's going to be okay, and let's get ready to fight.
They got to be able to sleep at night, I guess, because, I mean, Eddie Hearn, even if it went to top rank, but it didn't. It went to Eddie Hearn, even in two guys, are the real McCoy of boxing, and they know the game and they get it done. So that's a blessing for them guys. I mean, Thriller just wasted that much time. We've been talking about it every week, and money, but that's them, mate. Good luck to them. But, I mean, they've wasted George's and Lopez's time. I feel more sorry for George because I think, he's the one that's been over in a different country. But, I mean, you got a professional guy like Eddie Hearn, so George must know now, I finally get me shot. It's going to happen. And I mean, finally we're going to see this fight. So, I mean, let's get it done before the end of the year, yeah? So.
And Pete, did you see... Sorry, Pete, I was just going to say... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that Triller deposited 20% of the purse, which was, I think, 1.3 million or 1.2 million. Now that's been forfeited. That goes to the fighter, 65% Lopez, 35% Kambosos. So he gets about 400K, but he drops about 800K on the next deal because the matchroom offer was way under. So I think it was 3.4 million compared to 6 million, and top ranks was like 2.7 million. So in all earnest, I think now Kambosos will get 1.3 million through the matchroom offer, plus he'll cop the 400K off the forfeit. So he's up to 1.7 million US. I mean, that's over 2 million Aussie. It's not a bad pay.
Yeah, massive money. And I think, I don't know whether you saw too, I think the reporter from ESPN had the nerve to ask Bob Arum about it, and was told in no certain terms to piss off, basically, and he got ejected from the interview. But it's just amazing to think that, and I think just on that, I think Triller as well are going to challenge that 1.3 million deposit that they've lost. They're going to. Wouldn't you think that we've put these guys through all this? Let's just let them keep the money. This, because it's already been a shit show. But yeah, apparently they're going to challenge it in court to try and get that deposit back, which would be an even more kick in the guts, wouldn't it, Tazzie? Because it means Kambosos loses an extra 400 and Lopez loses 800, whatever it was.
When they first come in and when they first come in with that ridiculous bid, I mean, I thought that was a bit crazy. I mean, we know pretty much what goes on with the purses and the levels they're at, and when they come out of nowhere with this ridiculous big purse for such a fight that doesn't really, we're interested because the Aussies involved, but on the world stage, it's not the biggest fight out there. So, I mean, it's not Lomachenko and Lopez rematch. I mean, so to say 6 million, one gets 4, one gets 2, I mean, what challenger in Australia has ever gotten 2 mil? I mean, we've had Costa Zoo and Shannon Taylor get good paydays, but no one's, I mean, so good luck to George if it came through, but it didn't come through. So anyone can outbid someone when you're not going to back it up, yeah? They didn't back it up. So they wrote a check that they couldn't cash. So, I mean, they should, leave it to the professionals like Matchroom, like Top Rank, even Golden Boy, when they're back on board. And as you guys know, I mean, what's the use of saying figures when you don't back it up? It's like Peter or you, Lynden, offering some Aussie fighter ridiculous money, but they're not paying the guy. What's the point?
And Pete, the thing is too, is that what strikes me the funniest or oddest or whatever you want to call it is that Triller have not accepted one little bit of blame here or responsibility. They're like, well, we're not to blame. It's Kambosos' fault, or Bob Aaron's fault or Eddie Hearn's fault. But it's everyone's fault except their own. Surely they've got to cop it.
Yeah, they just didn't have proper boxing people around them, and the people around them just didn't know what they were doing. You need people that know how to deal with the IBF, know how to deal with sanctions, know purses, know how to do a proper budget. And if they had done things properly, and, if a fighter came in with, say, 4 mil or 3.8 mil and still got it, they would have lost money on it, obviously, but they would have been able to put it on. They were just so scared of putting it on because they knew they were probably going to lose a truckload on it, and they didn't want to go ahead with it. So it's a bit like overpaying for something and then trying to sell it back and not prepared to pay for it, and that's what they did. And it's really damaged their brand as well because they made a truckload out of the Mike Tyson fight with Roy Jones, if you want to call it a fight, but all that now has been washed down the drain. No one would deal with them. No one would take them reliably. I mean, as a promoter, your reputation's everything, and fighters train hard. They set their heart on dates. Unless there's a massive excuse, you can move a date once. There's a massive excuse, and an earthquake or some ridiculous happened, or his opponent broke his hand or cut. But when you do it 5 times and you keep doing it, you just look stupid. Yeah. So that's why the professionals like Eddie Hearn, Top Rank, they're going to go, okay, November 27. The fight goes on November 27. Yeah. Win, lose or draw, you get paid and you rock on.
Yeah, as I said, I think at least tonight both fighters have will hit the pillow knowing that at least Eddie's involved now and it'll all get done. It'll probably be bigger and better. Yep, the payday mightn't be as good, but at least it'll be a very professional run show and it'll all be above board. So let's just quickly talk about Brock, Tazzie. So, mate, this kid, I don't know whether you've seen the pictures of him lately on social media, but the kid looks massive.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's come up, what was he originally, when he fought on your show, Lynden, on the Horns Raffley, was he a junior bantam or super? Or
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously he's grown. I know he's always had weight troubles, and but he's got the great Jeff Fenech in his corner, and Jeff knows all about making weight because he's done it all his whole career. But look, he looks phenomenal. I hope that he can make the weight okay because I feel like he's still growing. But he's a full package. Look, he didn't have a massive amateur career, but he's learned under Jeff. He fights like Jeff, even though he's got quite a good long reach. But he's got the Jeff style, roughing him up, working in close, non-stop punching. My dear friend and brother Luke Jackson said when he sparred him, and Luke's sparred the best in the world and fought the best, and he said, geez, there's no joke when you're in ring with him, you're fighting for every second of that round. And that's coming from someone like Luke, who was Olympic captain. So, mate, he's in your face. He's got the tank. He's got the petrol. He's got the Jeff Fenech dedication, which Jeff, was next level, the hardest trainer there's ever been in the sport, especially in Australia. So he's got that. He's got the wisdom in the corner to go back to with Jeff. He's got the good Hollywood looks, mate. He's a good sort. He's better than us three mugs anyway, I think. Well, probably except for Peter. But I mean, he's
told
he's
you I'd
got
get you into the movies, Tazzie. I told you I'd get you into the movies.
he's got a Ryan Garcia sort of
Yes.
look, and Ryan's our popular. If he goes over and puts on a good performance, he's already got Eddie Hearn, Matchroom behind him. It's their show. The sky's the limit. You're talking next level. You're talking Ryan Garcia, who's not a champion yet. He's got that fame. He's gonna hit that style. He's gonna be the golden boy of boxing, mate. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and that's right, isn't it, Pete? Like, I mean, you look at him, he's got the looks. Looking at that picture of him up there before, it was almost like looking into a mirror, wasn't it, really? But with the rig on him. But he's just got the looks, he probably needs to work a little bit on the media training and that sort of stuff, but I'm sure that'll come. But he's just such a good, humble kid. But geez, the kid, I would hate to fight him because you look at his latest fights against Schliebs and Nort Beauchamp. Those guys just didn't have room to breathe, did they? And if he brings that to this fight against this Mexican guy, geez, just the sky's the limit and the doors that might open because of it.
Yeah, he's a relentless body puncher as well, isn't he? For a guy that tall, he's learning all the time. He didn't have a big amateur background. He had 10 or 12 amateur fights. So he's just going to keep improving and he's just going to keep getting better. And Jeff's onto him every day. They train every day. There's no downtime. So there's always going to be little short steps that it takes to get to the top. And I saw his opponent, Rodriguez. He's fought right up to super lightweight. So he's fought right up to 63 kilo. So I'm tipping this fight will probably be at lightweight.
Yeah, I think it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think
it is. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, look, I think now Brock for non-title fights would probably be at lightweight, but they'll try and get him down to 130 junior lightweight when the time's right. And he's just growing and growing. I mean, he's probably going to end up at super lightweight or a lightweight with that type of frame because he's 5'10", I think, isn't he? He'd be close to 5'9", 5'10". Yeah, so I mean, you know...
Go ahead, Taz.
What was I going to say? I'll tell you, it reminds me of a bit too, Peter. Like obviously, I know he's got the Jeff style, but with the body punch, it's a bit like a Lester Ellis because he was Lester had a bit of hide on him and go to the body. He's got that bit of...
He's almost like a mix of two of them, isn't he? He's a mix of Jeff Fenech and Lester Ellis when you think about it.
I was going to say reminds you of Scotty Brower.
Yeah.
As well, yeah.
Scotty Brower was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, they've got the baby face and they're as tough as nails. Brock's very tough as well. You know, when an opponent challenges him, he likes it and he steps it up. Like there's no backing off. He really wants to get in there and have a go.
While we're here, mate, shout out to Scotty Brower, mate. He's a great guy in Victorian boxing. Needs a great guy like him on board. He was a great fighter and he's a real good bloke too, Scotty Brower. So yeah, that's
right. The mini blaster, I remember very well. So we've got to move on. Pete, a little bit going on in the world news, including this weekend's massive heavyweight trilogy fight.
Yeah, let's go into it. I mean, this is a fight that's going to stop the world. You know, Deontay Wilder up against Tyson Fury, the third time. It's just going to be one of those things where you probably can't predict. Everyone thinks Fury's going to win. The bookmakers have got him at $1.30. I don't see it that way because Fury's had a lot of distractions, and Wilder coming off his first loss is going to get really serious. But which way do you go? Wilder's got that, or Wilder, whichever way you want to pronounce his surname, he's got that big home run of the right hand. If he lands that right hand, it can knock anyone out. That right hand has got serious power. Now, we've seen him, he's dropped Fury a few times, but he hasn't been able to put him away. But this fight could have everything. I mean, it's something that you want to book. It's this Sunday. If you're not doing anything, I think pay-per-view starts at 12 noon. Book it because it's going to be one of those fights that they could be talking about. The third fights always go strange ways. If I had to tip someone, I'd probably be going Fury, but I wouldn't be backing Fury at $1.30. It would not surprise me if it was an upset. You know, if Wilder was to knock him out, it wouldn't surprise me one little bit because that's how, you know, heavyweight boxing goes. It's all about upsets, and there could be an upset brewing on this one, but the safe money would be on Fury to win on points. But
well, let's discuss it a little bit further because, Tazzie, you've got... you look at it and, I mean, Fury doesn't look worried at all, but when you break it down, all Wilder's got, literally, is the right hand. That is literally it. You know, he doesn't jab very well. He hasn't got good movement. He has his chin up in the air. But what he's got is that big punch. And I think the fact that he couldn't actually nail Fury with that punch is the reason he lost. But, yeah, how do you see it? I think that's his only possible chance of winning.
I've always had a bit of a different thing, and a bit like Usyk. Like, I love Tyson Fury as a fighter, as a personality, as a person. I met him at Wildcard, great bloke, and I want him to win because he's great for boxing, and I reckon he's amazing. I love to see still him and Joshua one day if Joshua can avenge his fight. But I've had a bit of a trouble with this one because he hasn't been over there with his dad. He's been in the Hollywood. He's been in America. I think he's been doing too many public appearances and TV. I think it might have gone to his head. And then I see Wilder, who has got nothing to lose. He's embarrassed from the last fight. He's embarrassed from his comments. He's got a new trainer they seem to gel well. So he might bring a couple of new things. Maybe he might have more than a right hand this time, and he might have the jab better. He might have the hook better. And I think he's got that much hunger and venom. I'm tipping an upset. I really am. I don't want it to be, but I just think he's a bad man who's hungry. And Fury didn't want the fight originally. He wanted Joshua. That didn't happen. Might never happen. And it's always dangerous when you're looking at another fight. I know Fury's had time to sort of concentrate on this fight now, but I feel like he's more Hollywood these days, Fury. And I think this guy with this bad chip on his shoulder, with this power, mate, I tip Deontay to win, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. That's my tip.
Yeah, I tend to agree, actually. Watching a lot of the lead up to it, I think Fury said the other day he was probably going to come in probably 20 pound heavier than the last time. And I sort of get the impression that Wilder hasn't been as outspoken and probably brash and cocky as he was last time. He looks pretty much that man on a mission. And if you look at Fury, yeah, he doesn't seem to be the same fighter as he was in the last fight. Who knows? He might go out there and deliver everything that he says, but I do agree with you. Just Fury tends to look like he's a little bit more entrenched in the whole lifestyle these days, where Wilder's sort of put that aside and he wants to win this fight. So, look, I'm with you. I hope Fury wins.
Rocky 3.
Yeah, I hope Fury wins. I just love him. I think he's great for the sport. But I'm with you. I think he's in real danger of an upset. But I think. I know he has been working a lot on body punches too in training too, Wilder. So maybe that's his strategy. But I think I can just see maybe that he nails him with that right hand. But either way, I mean, I think it's great. And the other thing too we didn't mention is just the mindset of both fighters. You've got Wilder, who's had Fury on his mind for 18 months, where Fury's been pretty much thinking about Joshua for that long, and then all of a sudden, bang, it was switched on a couple of months' notice. So. It's going to be an interesting one, but end of the day, we're going to have a packed house at the T-Mobile Arena, the home of boxing in Las Vegas, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward to it, and that's. I mean, we can argue either case, but if Fury can box and stay away and he's fit to go 12 hard rounds, he's going to be hard to beat. At 6'9", he's just got more movement and a bit more skill. And Wilder's just a one-trick pony, and he can be awkward if you give him movement as well. And Fury just needs to win 7 rounds and he wins the fight.
Yeah.
That's how boxing is. You win 7 of the 12 rounds, you win the fight. So, I mean, I don't know how Wilder's going to keep going and win more rounds than Fury. I think he's going to have to need to really knock him out. And it's whether they're going to have traps, because I think Wilder at the moment he is hungry, as you said. So he's going to really, really, really be focused for this fight. There's no doubt he knows back-to-back losses is going to dent his career. It's going to dent his brand. He could go back to really small paydays to what he's been getting if he loses this. So that's another motivation. Fury's had a stack of money thrown at him in the past, and we know he can relax as a character. You don't know how switched on he is for this fight. Let's see. When it starts, we'll know where he's at. But it would not surprise me to see Wilder knock him out, and that's because Fury might not respect him as much. And if he does land one of those right hands, it's going to be a good night, because Wilder's got one of the biggest right hands in professional boxing. There's no doubt about that. It's a hammer. So let's just wait and see.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he did actually say he was going to go out and take it to Wilder and try and get him out of there earlier. So interesting to see what happens. Another one, Terence Crawford, Sean Porter.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that'll be what, November 20th, I think it is, at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, Terence Crawford now is probably the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Sean Porter would have to be one of the most brutalist, sluggish, in-your-face, pressure fighters going out there. And this fight's going to, it's going to do a lot for Crawford. Crawford needs a fight like this just to get him conditioned. Maybe for Errol Spence later on, maybe not. I don't see Porter winning the fight, but I see Porter giving Crawford a nightmare and giving him a real hard fight, because that's what Sean Porter does. He comes in, he gives you hard rounds. I remember it was Manny Pacquiao's sparring partner would have been about 6-7 years ago, and he was giving Manny fits in sparring. He's just one of these guys, he puts the pressure on, he's a high-level fighter, but Terence Crawford, let's be honest, he's probably, along with Canelo Alvarez, equal pound-for-pound fighters in the world right at the moment. There's not many that can beat him. His switch hits, he's good. We saw what he done to Jeff Horn. We've seen what he's done to a number of good fighters. He neutralises them and he just destroys them. And this is going to be an interesting fight, though, because Sean Porter is not a walk in the park. He's a serious fighter, and he's really right up there. He's in the top 3 or 4 welterweights in the world. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, Tazzie, it's good that Crawford's finally got an opportunity to fight one of these other top welterweights. And Sean Porter, while I don't think he beats Crawford, I think he gives him probably one of his biggest tests so far. And it's great that, as I said, Crawford's actually got an opportunity against someone like Porter instead of sitting on the shelf like he has.
Mate, he needs it. Porter's give everyone fits. He give Errol Spence his toughest fight. He gave Thurman, a very tough fight. He beat Garcia. He's like that seasonal guy. That's probably, he's not the best, but he's up there, and no one beats him easy. So Crawford has been on the shelf, been with top rank. All the good welterweights on the PBC with Al Heyman. So it's good that they can finally get together and make this fight happen. And Crawford needs this fight, and we'll see how he beats Porter. I think he wins, but does he beat him easier than the rest? Does he stop him? Does he have a close fight like the others did? We'll see where he is. I think Crawford's the best. I think Crawford's better than Spence, in my opinion. I didn't, but now I do. Like Pete said, look, I've got Canelo number 1, pound for pound. Crawford 2, or do a chuckle stick in there? But look, around that, them 3 and a Nui. So, I have Canelo number 1. But they're all around. They're very close, 2nd, 3rd. Look, I'm great to see Bud get the shot, and I think he's just amazing. He's a great fighter, and I think he beats Porter, and hopefully beats him quite convincingly.
And Pete, we've got a middleweight unification fight coming up.
Yeah, December 28th. This is going to be interesting, whether Murata and Triple G. I've been trying to get some info. They've definitely both agreed. Let's hope that the fight does go ahead. It's going to be in Japan, and it's going to be a massive show. I know they were trying to get Canelo Alvarez over there for Murata, and Dan Zen and Mr. Honda are obviously talking to try and get it on. And this is going to be a real interesting fight. Murata hasn't fought for close to 2 years, though, so it's going to be interesting to see how we can handle that type of fight first up from fighting Butler. He fought Butler last time, and I was actually at the fight. Randy Petalcorin fought Ken Shiro on the undercard, and it was 3 world title fights on the night. It was just before Christmas. It was a massive card, and watching Murata close, one thing you know about Murata, he's an all-action fighter, but he hasn't got the best defence. I don't rate him defensively. He's very hittable, and someone like Triple G, you don't want to be too hittable with, especially Triple G going over there to with all the titles and what have you up on the line.
Golovkin's IBF title and Murata's WBA title. So yeah, you're right though. Like Tazzie, like inactivity. You've got Golovkin hasn't fought for 12 months and Murata for 2 years. So he's probably going to be hard up against it anyway, fighting Triple G. But that makes it a little bit harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. The Jap is obviously he's had a couple of mixed fights where he's lost a couple of times. Look, fighting Triple G, I think Triple G wins and wins easily, but a Triple G is the old Triple G. I mean, and again, like, I guess there wasn't many options for Triple G, but I mean, Canelo Alvarez is the name on Triple G's resume. I think Triple G's his opposition hasn't been the best in his whole career. I mean, the fact that he stayed at middleweight, didn't go up to super middleweight at all, and I think that he really this is another thing of a mediocre opponent who obviously has got a name in Japan and probably an interim.
Gold medalist in the Olympics. Gold medalist.
Yeah, but look, he's had a couple of losses already. Yeah, I just think Triple G's,
and then you bench them. Yeah.
I don't think Triple G's opposition has been that good.
I think Murata's going to be a big chance in this. I wouldn't be surprised if he won this fight. I don't think if Triple G is a little rusty, Murata can win the fight. That's my view. I mean, I think he's got all the tools. There's no doubt about that. But he hasn't fought for 2 years. But it's not going to be an easy walk in the park for Triple G. That's my
What do you think,
anyway.
Lynden? What do you think about Triple G's resume, as in, besides Canelo, like, he hasn't really sort of fought a lot. I mean,
Yeah, look, he's probably from a little bit of the Marvin Hagler part where you sort of say he's a victim of his own environment. Like, it's not his fault that there hasn't been a lot of those great fighters around, apart from Canelo. And the tragedy of it is that probably a bit like when Hagler fought Anafermo at the start for his first world title shot, that Golovkin got ripped off in that first fight was a draw, according to many. Even the second fight, I personally thought that Canelo did enough in the second fight, but I think, like Hagler, he's a victim of his own generation, that he just hasn't had those. I know he's fought the Daniel Gills and out of the world, I mean, but that's good, but geez, it wouldn't have been great to have a Cotto around at the time, or Sergio Martinez for him to fight these types of guys. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, they just never happened. So I think, like Pete says, Olympic gold medalist, he's a great fighter, but I just don't think we'll probably know how great he probably could have been, purely because he just didn't have the fighters to prove himself against, like, other great fighters of this generation. So, all good, guys. Well, let's move on. We're going to go to our interview with Jeff Fenech. As I said earlier, he joined us from Fresno, California. We taped the interview a little bit earlier, Pete and I, and he's got plenty to say about Brock Jarvis's upcoming fight in the US. Jeff Fenech, welcome to Boxing Deep Dive.
Always great to talk to good people.
All good, mate. So you're in the USA at the moment with Brock. Mate, must be massive first fight with Matchroom Boxing over there.
Yeah, we're really excited. I think that Brock's pretty nervous. I'm a little nervous, but I think that we're ready for it. We've had a great preparation. We've had some great sparring here. Not as much as I'd like. The first couple of days of sparring, we at Bones Adams' gym. Brock seemed to hurt his opponents a little, and we only got a couple of days of sparring there, but we sparred 8 rounds today. We'll hopefully do 8 or 10 tomorrow or the next day, and that'll be it, But we've sparred Keith Hunter, we've sparred a few other guys from Bones' gym, and the boxing's been great.
So tell us about the gym at the Bones Adams gym there, mate. So obviously you just said he's been getting plenty of sparring. Is he been in that level of competition before in any gyms overseas? I know he goes to Thailand a little bit, but this is his first time in America?
We've been to Bones' gym before. We sparred a young boy, Dawn, who's a great prospect, but Brock's just outgrown him a little now. So I think the day after we sparred him, the first day, they had the 6'1" Keith Hunter there waiting to spar Brock, and like I said, Brock had no problems at all. I think, matter of fact, I think that he might have hurt Keith's ribs, so Keith hasn't returned, so we weren't able to spar anymore. But I think that Brock might have injured him. So yeah, but no, it's been good, and that's all we needed. Our confidence levels are high, and we know we're fighting a really, really good, tough journeyman. So we're ready.
Jeff, I've had a look at the record of Rodriguez. He is pretty tough. Brock has had 3 fights in 2 years. How much training have you been doing in between just to keep him sharp for this fight? Obviously, because of COVID, you haven't been able to keep him active. How hard has it been now to get him cherry ripe?
No, we train every day. I don't believe in ring rust. We get all that in training. So we've been training really, really hard. We've done this every day of the week for the last few years. Of course, we haven't been able to get fights, but we have been training hard, and we've been waiting for this opportunity. And like I said, we've been sparring and stuff at home, and we're ready. Like I said, there will never be an excuse from us.
Okay, you've got Huss Hamden in training camp as well, the son of a gun, Nader Hamden's son. Is anything in the pipeline for Huss? Is he just there as an experience, or could he get on an undercard and get a 6-round fight in just to keep him active?
Well, we'll wait and see how long we're going to be here after this fight, and wait and see that we're booked to come home in December. So I'm hoping that the flights open up and we can get home. But if they don't, if we can get on another show, and if Hass can do that, it'd be great. But I really brought Hass here as Brock's sparring partner, but also I just thought it'd be a great experience for him sparring over here. And at 20 odd years of age, I mean, coming to America and training in some of those gyms and watching what these other guys do and how they spar, I thought would be invaluable for him. And it has been. He's had a lot of spars already, and like I said, he's now just helping Brock put the icing on the cake. And we're, like I said, both boys are helping each other tremendously.
So Jeffy, his opponent is, try and get this right, Alejandro Frias Rodriguez. He fights him on October 17 in Fresno, California. How much do you know about the opponent?
Yeah, like I said, I watched a couple of his fights, and he's one of those typical Mexicans, really, really tough. I watched him in his last fight, and what I watched today, just to make sure that I was watching the right thing, was I watched his opponent more than him today, just to see what his opponent brought to the table. And his opponent was very, very talented. It was a very, very close fight, but like I said, I just think that everybody underestimates Brock. They look at him, they think that he's a pretty boy and this and that, and they think that he's going to, he doesn't have that fire and stuff in the belly until he hits them, and especially in the belly, and then the fights change. Like I said, I'm more than confident that Brock will do very, very well. I think that after this fight, I think that Matchroom will most probably change our contract straight away, and they'll re-sign us to something bigger and better. I think that we will hopefully fight for a title 1 or 2 fights after this. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but just the way that he's been boxing, Lynden's been amazing, and like I said, I'm very, very, very proud of what Brock's achieved. And when you think of, he's had 19 fights. He fought on one of your shows down there, and he's just getting better and better.
I was going to say, Jeff, what's it like being involved with Matchroom? There's Frank Smith as well. He's the CEO. What's it like starting from the bottom? Are they giving you the respect that you deserve? Obviously, you're a very respected figure overseas and a legend of the sport, so they're not going to sort of treat you like a punk. Have they given you that respect that you think that you deserve, and it's all going kosher?
I don't think I deserve anything special. I just think that if they look after my fighter, which they are doing, and they're doing quite well, the people who I'm involved with behind the scenes, a man named Brian Peters, I think, and he's been tremendous. And every time you ring up, there's never a problem. They seem to go out of their way to help. So look, I'm just excited. I'm excited, Peter and Lynden, for them to see what I bring to the table. I mean, anybody can talk. Look, there's nobody in the world that fights like Brock Jarvis today. I mean, like I said, he throws, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 punches every round. Where you watch fights, you don't get 100 punches in 10 rounds between 2 fighters.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a big amateur career. Did he have many amateur fights?
I had 13, so, it's... Very, very
pretty similar to your background, Jeff. You only had 17 or 19, didn't you? Amateur fights?
I had 24 when I went to the Olympics, so 27 when I finished,
Yeah.
So Jeffy, you turned Brock pro in 2015 after that amateur career. I mean, did you think that, he's probably a scrawny little light flyweight back then. Do you scratch your head about how far he's come in that time? He looks massive in training at the moment, and just how he's progressed through the weight divisions, but also just as a progression as a fighter.
I'm saying a few prayers, Lynden, for God to stop making him grow. I want him just to, I'd still like to think we can get down to 130 and have one fight and fight for the title there and then move up. But we're just going to see how we go with the weight now, and we're working really hard. Jordan from the guy we're working with, that works with all the UFC guys. We're doing the water cut at the moment, so we'll just see how that goes with Brock, and if that all works well, we'll see what happens. But like I said, I don't know. In Australia, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. This kid, he's on a different level. Yeah, I mean, I might send you guys some footage of him sparring here, and you can make your own mind up. But I think it'll shock you. But I don't want to put up. It's not really for me to put up and let people see how these guys over here spar. But what he's done in the last few days has been wow. It's been crazy.
No, awesome work, Jeff. We're not us here. We got massive high hopes for Brock Jarvis. He's going to be our next world champion. We're not doubting in one moment. What's it like though, Jeff, going from Sydney that was like complete shutdown, now probably back to a country that's back to normal, and COVID's like, they're learning to live with it, but they're not shutting things down. It must be pretty good for you guys.
Well, it's pretty strange everywhere you go. There's masks, and if they put the mask under the nose, put it back over your nose, So look, there's a lot of care and thought going into what people do here. But like I said, to be honest, I don't really envy being here for such a long time. But I'm here for one reason, and that's for the opportunity for Brock to prove that he's one of the best in the world, and he's going to prove that on the 16th here, the 17th in Australia. And I hope everybody that's got the Zone on their app, just watch this kid fight, because you're going to see something very, very special. The kid just seen spar or fight against the last couple of fights. He's not here anymore. This guy that I've got's a monster now. This guy's not the guy who fought Mark Sleeves or fought North Beauchamp. This guy's totally different. He's just getting better and better, and that's what kind of upset me when we fought these guys. People are thinking, look at him, his baby face. How's he gonna, Well, this is the baby-faced assassin. He loves to win, and he doesn't want to lose. And like I said, he trains harder than anybody I've ever been associated with. So I'm really, really excited.
So obviously, this is a massive fight for Brock to launch the career with Matchroom. But with the state of Australian boxing at the moment, Jeff, obviously we all know what's going on with Tim Tszyu. You've had the Maloneys over there. You've had George Kambosos, if ever that happens, hopefully. Jai Patal's about to fight overseas. We've even got Ebony Bridges over with Matchroom in England. Just the state of Australian boxing at the moment, it's just awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty strong, mate. We've got some great talent. I mean, my saddest thing is that I sometimes wish that as an Aussie we could all get together and help each other and give each other a little few clues that are needed. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Maloney boys, and I'm a greatest friend in the world with them, Angelo Hyder. But I just kind of think that, there are a couple of things that I think that if we'd done a little different on that night, the both boys would have had titles here. I'm not blaming Angelo, not blaming anybody, but I just think that, there were a couple of things that I thought that could have been said and done between rounds that would have made those boys lift a little more, because they're such great kids and they're winners. But look, everything happens for a reason. Hopefully they'll learn from their experiences and get better. And hopefully, when I take Brock over there, we won't make any mistakes. I'll have everything 100% covered when he needs to, if he needs to change, or if he needs to do something different in a fight. That's one of the things that I've got Brock ready for. Whether Brock can fight in post, he can box. So we're ready for anything.
Stay away from Triller.
I'm not really worried about any of that stuff. Like I said, I think I'm with the best and the biggest promoter in the world at the moment in Eddie Hearn. He's been on the phone with us a few times and spoke to him. He's very excited about the deal with Brock, and we're excited to be with him. And like I said, we're very, very happy there.
No, that's great, mate.
I was going to say, now you're away, what's happening to the gym in Sydney? Because you've got Caesar Afghan as well, a Melbourne-based boy that had his first pro fight at 18, and I know his dad. You've got high hopes for him as well. Is he still in Sydney? Is he still training? What's happening with him?
Yeah, he's training really hard. All my other boys are still back at home training. I got Tyler Blizzard. I got him. I got a girl now named Kate Kate McLaren. They're all training really, really hard, but yeah, I just can't be there. But Caesar's got an amazing, bright future ahead of him, and we just tried to get him home and spend some time with his family, but because of this pandemic, he couldn't even get on a plane and go home. So it's pretty sad, but look, they're all in beautiful properties. They're being looked after. Their sponsors are all great for them, and can't wait to get home and thank their sponsors, and can't wait to be with the boys. But at the moment, we can only do one job at a time, Peter, and it's Brock at the moment. You know, when time comes for Caesar and the other boys, I'll be there for them as well.
No, good work, Jeff. Good work.
So the fight, as we said, is October 17th, so October 18th in Australia. For everyone that's watching, get the zone. I think it's only $2.99. I think you'd be crazy not to have it, and really look forward to the
16th. It's the 16th here.
Is it? Oh, sorry. So the 17th here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no drama. So if you haven't got the zone, of course, $2.99 a month, you can't go wrong. So it's going to be a massive card. Who else is on the card, Jeff?
Oh, Mickey Garcia is the main event.
Okay.
Yeah, Mickey Garcia.
Yeah.
And like I said, Eddie always puts on great fights. So I'm just hoping that that we look. I'm like I said, I don't want to be overconfident, but I know the kid that's been training, he's unbeatable at the moment. So we're very, very excited.
No, that's great, mate. Well, I know you're a busy man. You've got a lot going on over there, but we really appreciate you taking time out to have a chat with us, and we can't wait for October 17th here to watch Brock make a statement on US soil.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, I can't thank you guys enough. At least I know I'm talking to two guys who love our sport and have been involved for a long time. So Lynden and Pete, thank you so much. And yeah, hopefully 17th or 18th we'll be talking about how great Brock was.
Thanks,
Jeff,
again, Jeff.
Before we sign you off, Jeff, who are some of the people you'd love to thank? Because it just doesn't happen like that where you go overseas. Who are the important people that you'd like to thank that come to mind?
Well, this guy here, look, I've got so many different sponsors out there, and look, they all know I will post them. I don't want to go through them all one by one now because I'll be here for another half an hour, but I've been very, very blessed that the people who are involved in Team Jarvis and Team Fennick have been super, super loyal, and I just can't thank them enough. And I'm looking forward to coming home and celebrating with them, and hopefully we'll all be able to fly here for Brock's next fight, and hopefully very, very soon he'll be fighting for the world title, and he'll do all his sponsors very, very proud. Awesome
stuff, Jeff. Thanks again, mate.
Great work, Jeff. All the best.
Thanks, Lynden, so much. Lovely talking to you guys.
See you, mate. So there it is. Jeff Fenech. How good was that to have an exclusive interview with him? It's a pity you missed it there, Tazzie, but you obviously know a lot about the Team Fenech mantra and how great it is to be part of that little inner sanctum.
Yeah, mate. Look, as I said, Jeff first was my idol as a kid, and then I got the honour to be able to train with him, and pretty much all my adult years from 18 up until my mid-20s, I got to drive the training with him every day and learn under him and spar. Obviously Hussey, Skinny, and Vic, and all the great spar. Even Jeff, I sparred Jeff himself in '98. Wow. He jumped in the ring and bashed me for 6 rounds. Said we were only doing 3, but he made it 6. So, look, we speak. I'll probably call Jeff every probably 3 weeks. I love him. He's the first person to chuck some gloves down for a fundraiser or an auction. Even sent my father-in-law a birthday message because he's Maltese. Jeff Fenech is just a great person who I am humble enough to say is a dear friend and brother, apart from being my former coach. So there's no hard taskmaster. He expects perfection. He wants you to train like he did, which is very hard, as all the Team Fenech boys back in the day know. And but he knows the sport back to front. Billy Hussein, as I regard as the best trainer in Australia now, says Jeff is the greatest trainer, who he learned under. He learned under not just Johnny Lewis, but Emmanuel Stewart. He picked a lot of American stuff up there and from the great Emmanuel. And Jeff's the complete coach. And he's been there and done it at the highest level. So, look, he expects the best, mate. Brock's got the best guy on his corner. Great team, great sponsors, if you're with Jeff, you're gonna at least get your shot at the best. If you don't get it, that's up to you. But with Jeff, you'll get there at least. So yeah.
Pete, you could sort of see during the interview that he was almost bursting with. I think he wanted to come out and say how wrapped he was with the way Brock's been going, but you could just tell he was trying to really hold back, wasn't he? But he wasn't doing a great job of disguising the excitement that that's there for his debut over there.
Yeah, look, I'm sure Brock, because he's got some good sparring, and I think Jeff wanted to show us a little bit of the sparring, but he didn't. So, yeah, look, we're going to see an improved effort, because when people go overseas and you see, 5-6 world-class fighters in one gym, you get to spar them, stuff like that, it just lifts up the level of the opposition and the person. So it's going to be an improved showing from Brock Jarvis, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
up against a tough Mexican.
Yeah, he's a tough Mexican, but no doubt that he'll put on a great performance, and we obviously send our best wishes over to Jeff and Brock and all the team over there. I'm sure they'll do Australia proud. All right, well, let's move on, because it's that time of the night. Tazzie's been pretty calm tonight, I've got to say. But let's see if we can change that, because we go into Tazzie's tirade. What do you got for us tonight, Tazzie?
Well, tonight, I mean, look, I've been a bit quiet tonight. I mean, I'm still getting over the arse kicking Pete gave me last week. So, I mean, he gave me a good going over, mate. So, but anyway, look, amateur boxing, Australian amateur boxing. I mean, I've said this for a long time, and I know we've had recent glory recently with Harry Garside winning a silver medal, which was great. But many, many years, we haven't had no glory. We have had no medals. We've had nothing. We've had, I think, Robbie Peden, great bomber, I think won 2 fights to qualify in Barcelona, won his first 2, and I think Crawford might have won 1 or 2, and I mean, that's pretty much the average. We won 1 or 2 fights up until recently. But the thing I think about Australian amateur boxing, we need to we need the money, first of all. So the government needs to back us, the funding, to get a young squad in like the junior squad or sub-junior over to Europe early days. So that obviously takes money. We need to be fighting Kazakhstan, Russia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan. We need to be over there with them countries fighting regularly. Instead of just going over, once every now and then, or fighting Oceanias, which we're always a step ahead of the Oceania region. And Lynden, as you'll know, and you'll probably mention a bit later, your opinion, but I think, we need to, first of all, if we do get the funding from the government, that's, to get a young squad of, elite juniors, 14 to 16, and get them over there in these countries, with the right trainers. I believe that, there's so many good trainers. I believe, well, Jamie Pittman's probably going to take. Oh, Mark Wilson's done a great job. Mark Wilson's great, and he's a great bloke. I don't know much about the Pommy guy, what his credentials were, but he's been there for a few years, and obviously I was under Bodo myself back in the day. I feel like Jamie Pittman obviously will take over probably as the head coach, which he deserves it, my former teammate, and he's awesome. I think Lou Jackson deserves a spot. I think he should be on the Australian team as a coach because, Olympic Games, 2 Commonwealth Games, captain. I mean, so many international fights, and he's such a great student of the game, so he'd be awesome. And Daniel Gill was another one I think would be amazing. Was a great amateur, great boxing brains. I think them 3 guys should probably lead us into the next generation. And, we need to get our younger guys over competing against the best in Europe. It's the only way we're going to do any good. I mean, we got a silver medal recently, but that how many Olympics has there been? We've got nothing. We're lucky to get past the first round because against the Russians and Cubans and Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan and all them countries, we just get flogged. Simple as that. So I think Germany, I think we really need that backing, and they need to get a squad over there internationally all the time competing. It's the only way we're ever going to do any good, and get like really good chance to win the gold medal. Lynden, I don't know what you're a great amateur like yourself. Your opinion means a lot.
Yeah, no, I do agree, Tazzie, and I've been sort of vocal about this in the past that I think there's nothing wrong with the talent in Australia. I think we've got some incredibly talented boxers here. Obviously, and that's saying something considering the amount of sports that that are in line before it comes to boxing. You know, there's so many sports in Australia with all the rugby and football codes and all the rest of it that are out there. And on top of that is swimming and all that sort of stuff. So I think we do an incredible job with what we have. My thing at the moment is that, you know, when we were competing, it was strictly an amateur sport. I know we spoke about this last week, but apart from eligibility, it's also the way now it's scored and the style that has been changed. So when we were there, it was that arm fencing type of style. Now it's changed to the professional type of fighting. They've obviously taken the head guards off. They score it like the professionals. So we have to start treating amateur boxing as professional. And my idea, I love the idea of having the Luke Jacksons and Daniel Gills involved. So I think I've said in the past that in a previous episode, we've got all these great fighters out there that aren't being involved, and we're bringing in imports. And with all due respect to some of the coaches that do get gigs, they've had no experience, no you know, in the ring and outside the ring, to be able to be at that elite level. And I just think when you've got guys like you said, Luke Jackson, Daniel Gill, and that's the biggest one of all for me is Jeff Fenech. Imagine having Jeff Fenech involved in an amateur team, maybe not as the full-time head coach, but being involved in the training, the mindset of you know, a lot of these young fighters. Because I must admit, and you would have been the same, Tazzie, you're at a training camp and you meet up with a Jeff Fenech or a Costa Zoo, mate, you're walking 3 feet taller. It's as simple as that. And to have these guys around, I mean, imagine having Jeff Fenech in a training camp with the national guys. I think it would just be an enormous lift. The Jeff Horns of the world, these types of guys, the Maloneys, some great, and obviously Robbie Peden and Crawford, especially Crawford.
Crawford, 100%.
Yeah,
Crawford.
I think it'd be fantastic.
10 years ago. 10 years ago, Crawford.
So I think we need to change our whole mindset. And I think I said this again on another episode that, you know, in 1994, Bomber Peden won a Commonwealth Games gold medal. Since then, right up until I think 2002, I think was Gill and Miller and Jared Fletcher.
Justin Kane.
Okay, yep.
Justin Kane.
Okay.
Fletcher and Brad Pitt were 2006.
Okay, yeah. So we've had moderate success, but when it comes to, apart from recently with Harry Garside, there hasn't been a lot of success. And the amount of money and fights and that we've pumped into these guys, I would think, and I've been involved in amateur boxing for quite some time, so I'm not right across it, but I just think by now, after all that time and all the money and all the coaching and all the resources that are being put into it, we should be doing a hell of a lot better than what we are at those top level tournaments. There's no reason with the talent that we've got some great young fighters. I just don't think more than anything, I'm sure they're all fit enough, strong enough, all the rest of it. I just don't think sometimes the mentality's there, and that's where a Jeff Fenech or a Jeff Horn or a Bomber Peden or a Crawford would be unbelievable to come in and be part of the national teams. So,
but the main thing is with that, Lynden, and I agree with what you're saying about the coaching, but the fighting is the main thing I'm talking about.
Yep.
There's nothing like fighting. So when you're fighting against Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Russia, and all the time,
100%.
That's the key thing. That's what I mean, the fighting. It's not so much the training. Training's fine. You can't beat the competition. And that's where you improve. And that's what we need. We can't just fight Oceania level. We need to be able to over there regularly fighting these guys. So it takes money, it takes funding.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. And we base over there for probably 6 months of the year.
The problem we've got with that, like we've always had, and it's that catch-22 thing. Obviously, there's not the money there to put into these guys to take them over there. It all costs money. And unfortunately, you don't get the money without the success. And in turn, you don't get the success without the money. So it's always been the same. And you know, mate, half the time, unless you go to the Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games, you know, you're paying your own way to a lot of these tournaments and got to take time off work. You're relying on sponsors. So until that changes, as good as Harry Garside was, and hats off to him because he did an incredible job, I just don't see a sustained level of consistency across the team. Not one or two that might pop up. Just the consistency amongst the team and not having, I think, what do we have? Was it 2 females and 3 or 4 males? There should be a full team of 12 going. I know it's easier said than done, but that's what we should be aspiring to. And you're right, the fights over there in a perfect world, and we're again a victim of our location in the world, to be able to get over to the States and to Russia and Cuba and Germany and all these types of places. But as I said, it all costs money.
They changed the criteria though. See, now it's on Oceania.
It's Asia.
You got to win. And that's way tougher. So to make that team, you got to beat Japan and China
Yeah,
and
you're right.
Kazakhstan, mate.
Yep.
So we're probably going to send small squads forever now. The days of your team when you went to Atlanta,
A lot easier back then.
Barcelona, that's probably done. You probably never see a full Australian team because we're not good enough. Simple as that.
Yeah, no, you are right, man. And yeah, sorry, that's probably my mistake. I forgot that we're now in Asia, which makes it a hell of a lot harder. But I mean, I look at someone like Harry Garside with all the potential in the world. You got Sky Nicholson in the female ranks. Those two alone, if we're talking about money, should be all right. You guys are being packaged up. You guys are off to a Europe for 6 to 12 months, all expenses paid. If you're not quite sure we've got the depth there, at least take those ones that you really think are capable of winning gold medals, and they both are. They've both obviously shown that. Maybe package them up and send them off and have that development squad where we're sending them to some of those tournaments without, always being on the road. But those two especially, the exposure that both of them got. Sky got it at the Commonwealth Games and Harry got it at the Olympic Games. I would think that, there'd be a bit of money thrown at them to get them overseas. And the rest of them, maybe they're not quite up to the level yet. Well, they're the next level coming through. Let's pump a little bit more money into them and sort of filter it down. But there has to be, and you know yourself, Tazzie, it's always been a little bit the same. That transition from the development as a junior into the senior, there's a massive gap there. There's not the fights and experience and the trips and that. So when you turn from junior to senior, you're playing catch up for 2, 3, 4 years to try and get to the level. And by that stage, who knows, it might be even too late. So,
mate, my first year as a senior in '95, I had Nadal Hussain and Robbie Peterson in my division. I was 17 back then. Now it's 19 for junior. So I had them two beasts in my division. And what hope did I have?
Yeah, pretty tough with those two, I can imagine. But look, that's a really good tirade / talking point, mate. So that's a really good one. So we can maybe touch on that.
Can I do my sign off too for the Australian Amateur Organisation?
Yep. You've got the resources, guys. You've got the Jeff Fenech and Luke Jackson. And just on what you said about Jamie Pittman, fantastic choice as a head coach. But to have those guys surrounding him, like they do at the AFL clubs, they have the head coach, which is with Jamie Pittman, surround him with the head of coaching as such in the Jeff Fenech, and bring in the Luke Jacksons and Jeff Horns and that around him.
Luke Jackson,
and Justin Crawford. Let's put out the thing for Crawford. Let's get him involved. And Jackson.
All Tasmanians.
And I say, not too many Tasmanians, mate. One will do. And Gill's a Tasmanian as well. You're trying to throw him in as well.
Mate, we're better than Bendigo, mate, that's for sure.
All right, let's get on to Pete's segment. He's been sitting there, waiting there patiently while we've been on our soapbox. So let's go into Pete's slip and weave. Tazzie, you've got your 5 questions ready to go, have you?
Yes, ready to rock, mate.
All right, let's go. These are mainly true or false questions, Pete. So what it is, we've got 10 true or false questions we throw at Pete. Just a quick out there. I can elaborate a little bit on it, but we're just after a quick question. Quick answer. My first question, true or false? This is going on our interview that we just had. Brock Jarvis is our best young talent or prospect in Australia at the moment.
I'd say true.
Yep. Tend to agree.
I'd say true.
True or false?
Yep, go.
True or false? Anthony Mundine was robbed in the second fight against Danny Green.
Oh, that's a close one. I don't know, robbed, but he could have got the nod. He could have got the nod. It was a close fight.
True or false? This is based on our classic fight from the other night. Richard Steele made the right decision to stop Chavez Taylor.
False.
Okay.
True or false? Thriller should be suspended from bidding for fights after their handling of the Lopez Gambosa's fight.
If they lose their forfeit, they should still be allowed to promote.
Okay.
They should be suspended though?
No, not if they lose their 1.4 million. That's enough fine for them to get their life together.
Yeah, fair enough.
Very cool.
True or false? Tyson Fury now ranks with Muhammad Ali as the biggest showman in boxing.
True.
True or false? 10 fights is too many to be eligible for the Olympics.
I'd say true.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 5, maybe. All right. True or false? George Foreman was a better fighter in his second career?
False.
Okay, I thought he'd better at the first one, which of course he went to 1980, was it 77, retired and come back in 87. So amazing to be retired for 10 years and come back and win the title. Sorry, Tazzie, go ahead, mate.
True or false, we should go back to 15 round world title fights?
False.
True or false? More needs to be done by the combat boards to stop mismatches.
True.
What is the biggest fight never to be made?
This is putting you on the spot.
Yeah, never to be made. Tyson Foreman would have been big.
Yeah, would have been. Yeah, all right. Well, there it is. Pete slip and weave is pretty good. Nice sort of slip and weave in there, Pete. So
Yeah,
he's moving quite well. He's like a fine wine, Peter. He's getting better every week, mate.
he's riding the wave this week after the quiz. So let's just see if he's as sharp a bit later on in the program.
I hope he's taking me a bit.
No,
I hope he's.
Yeah, I'm going to be
I'm
like
hoping he takes
Tyson
me a bit
Fury.
lightly.
I've been on the party scene. No Red Bull, no coffees today.
All right, guys.
Tyson Fury.
Well, let's move on because it's my turn, and it is Lynden's talking point. Now, this week's one is, I'm sure it'll get a little bit of conversation between both yous because it is championship belts have become worthless. Now, let me just preempt what the question is about. It's about with so many belts for world champions, for the regional champions, the gold champions, silver champions, I think having a belt these days has totally lost its luster. And I think these days you see a lot of fighters have had just as many belts as they've had fights. And I just think it makes a mockery of yesteryear when belts actually meant something. And these days if I see a fight and there's some title on the line, I pretty much just don't take any notice. I'm looking at the fighters, and obviously we had great fighters like Floyd Mayweather and Pacquiao and those types of guys had the luxury of saying, well, we don't need belts, we are who we are. But I understand promoters, as we've all been promoters or are promoters, looks great on a poster. But I just think the whole thing about being any type of champion, whether you're world or whatever, I just think the belts these days mean absolutely nothing. They're just good for photo opportunities. What do you reckon, Tazzie?
I mean, a main title still means something. Obviously, like your full WEC, your full WA, your full IBF, and full WA.
Is there such a thing as a full WBA title? There's about 4 or 5 belts.
Probably not. That's the thing. I mean, look, I think I had it on my thing recently, my tirade. I mean, the interims and the silver and the regular and the super and the golds and the Kinder Surprise belt they find at the survey. They really do make a mockery of the sport, and it's all about sanction and fees. They charge big money, obviously, these organisations. And, look, it hurts the sport as in, like, we're diehard fans, us three. So you think we sort of know who's the champion. But, I mean, even sometimes I get confused with who's got this belt, who's that, who's the actual champion of that weight. So if guys who live the sport like us get confused, imagine how you're going to get your punter, just your average person who loves boxing, interested, where the UFC sort of have the one now sort of build, and if you don't, even though I'm not a fan of that sport, but I'm just saying they need to clean it up, and I think they've been trying to. So look, I still think your proper belt champion still does have some luster, obviously, but I mean to have 3 or 4 in the one division, like I mean it's getting ridiculous, and look, it needs to get cleaned up for boxing to go any further, because I mean the IBF is probably the best. They have a really strict number 1 policy. So to me, like your interim WBA to me is just like your number 1 contender for the IBF, and I mean I think you're right. It probably does lose a lot of it. The belts have lost a bit. If you've got a Mayweather or a Pacquiao or a big name, you don't need the belts. But, still be good to say you're world champion, yeah. But, I mean, look, yeah, they do. I'm not a fan of all these belts, to be honest with you. And, they should really fix it.
Pete, it seems to be getting worse though, doesn't it? I mean, there seems to be new belts. The WBC are now even inventing the special occasion belt, like for a big fight, they'll make some sort of different belt. But I mean, it says something though, doesn't it, that the Ring magazine belt is universally regarded as probably the best belt in boxing, and it's not even a legitimate sanctioned belt. So that's got to say something for the state of where we're at with these sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, look, I've got 2 points to make. I don't mind if the belts are made up, as long as they're nothing to do with the world title belts. And that's where the WBA now, they've scrapped the interim belts. They're no longer world title belts. And they've also scrapped the gold belts being considered up there with a world title belt. So I think now if you win a gold belt, you get a top 10 world ranking, and the interim title doesn't exist anymore. So they've just got their regular champion and their super champion. So to me, that's still confusing, because you've got 2 world champions for the one organisation in the same weight class. And I don't see the point of it unless they're going to do a super fight together. And that never happens. They always coexist away from each other. So it builds opportunity, though. It builds opportunity. But who are we to... I mean, do you guys class the IBO... If someone was to win an IBO world title, would you call them world champions?
No. Or WBF or IBA? No.
Okay, so I mean, see, everyone's different, so you've got to win either an IBF, WBO, WBC. So do you claim a WBA interim world champion as a world champion?
No. But it depends, because the interim might be because of injury or someone. It's in between. Look, I don't know. I can't keep track of interim, regular, super.
What Andrew Maloney won, would you class him as a world champion? He won a vacant interim world title.
Well, at the time, I must admit, I thought it was the real title. I didn't know any better, and I'm very, very close to both boys, and I must admit I didn't know, because it wasn't advertised.
He's setting you up right now.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
I get a lot of that.
No, I'll have my honest opinion. But I remember thinking at the time, because it didn't say on the fight poster or the advertising it's for the interim title. I don't think it was. It was the world title. So I must admit, without doing the research, I thought it was a legitimate title. So I suppose in hindsight it wasn't, because then we found out that someone else was the world title. So, look, I don't know.
Randy, my boxer that I managed, Randy Peddle-Corin, won an interim world title and defended it. And it's exactly the same world title bout as the WBA champions get. It's recognised as a world title. So for me, Anthony Mundine won a junior middleweight one up against Alvarez. He classed that as a world title. That was an interim world title, a vacant one. Yeah. So, look, my thing is, let's not bag the title if it doesn't suit us. That's what my point last week. So if Maloney wins it, if Mundine wins it, it's a world title. But if someone else wins it that we don't like and he's a Jap or whatever, look at that arsehole, it's just won an interim world title. It's bad for boxing. What I'm trying to say is just be universal across it. Because it's no use saying...
Well, universally, I'm against it.
So, okay, well, I'm for it if it's recognised. But now it's not. So the WBA have said, look, sorry, we can't have an interim world champion, a regular world champion, and a super world champion.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you explain to me exactly what an interim champion is? Because I've still been around boxing since I've been 10 years old. I still can't get my head exactly what an interim title is. There's the super champion, which I'm assuming is the man. Then there's the regular champion. What the hell is a regular champion? Then you got the interim champion. So what the hell is that?
Okay, let's go into it. You've got the super champions, a guy that's normally had 4 defences or above. So he goes to the super champion. The regular champion's normally a guy that's won probably an interim title, has just won a regular title. So he coexists. The interim world WBA champion is really the number 1 contender and the number 2 contender.
But he's classified as a world champion, but he's the number 1 contender.
Yeah. And then there was a gold title, which was just below the interim title, which now they're saying the gold title is for people ranked in the top 10. So they've pushed that back, and they've also taken away the interim world title. So now they've just got
you following this,
regular
Tazzie?
champion.
I lost him about 5 minutes ago.
So I'm trying to explain. I mean, it's not easy to explain. I'm not doing the WBA rules. I'm just trying to, because I've dealt
See
with
what I
them.
mean, Peter? You're a boxing, encyclopedia. Lynden, myself, Mike. We know the game back to front. See how we're getting confused? How are you going to attract your average punter to the sport? That's the thing, isn't it? Like,
let's go. Joshua Franco, is he a world champion? When you've got Estrada as a super champion in his same division, does Joshua Franco beat Estrada?
I don't think so. No.
So he's not even a world champion in his own organisation, let alone weight class.
Look,
I think the worst thing was.
Go, Tazzie.
I think the worst thing for a bit there was so we got what's the name beat Lomachenko, Tagliafico Lopez.
Yeah.
And so with that, the WBC, Haney's meant to have the WBC, but then Lopez meant to be the super champion of that. And then you had, was it Rolly Romero, who was going to fight Gervonta Davis? We missed that. Rolly Romero signed to fight Gervonta Davis in December. So that's a huge fight. I think Davis kills him. But so Rolly Romero I think he was elevated as had a belt there as well. And that's WBC. That's not the worst one. WBA's worse than that. But I mean, and then I think you had Ryan Garcia had an interim belt for one of them lightweight titles, even though we know Lopez is the number one guy in lightweight. Yeah, we agree. Mm-hmm. But you got Garcia, Romero, and Haney, and maybe another guy. They got claims to belts.
Mm. Yeah, but if there's a champion that's injured, and let's just say Nonito Donaire was meant to fight for a world title up against the French guy, and the French guy got COVID and Donaire got COVID. Then Gabello fought for the interim title. He won it. He beat Rodriguez, who beat Jason Maloney in a split decision. Controversial. They said, I didn't think it was controversial. I thought Gabello won it. Now, Gabello became the interim world champion, and the French guy ends up fighting Donaire for the regular title, and Donaire knocks him out in 4 rounds, and he now becomes the world champion. Now, Gabello's fighting Donaire. That's what I like about the WBC. You're following the path now that he's got to beat Donaire. He gets his opportunity. They don't coexist, and he starts doing... Gabello doesn't start doing interim world title defences, and then Donaire does his own world title defences, all under the WBC banner. So they do their interim. There's a reason why. And they also have a silver champion, which is basically like a mandatory. If you win that, you're basically next in line for a world title. I can see.
Yeah, I just remember back in the day, mate, when the IBF came in 1985, because back then it was WBA, WBC, that was it. Then the IBF come in, and that was ridiculed as being a bogus title. And 1988, the WBO come in, and then all of a sudden we had the IBAs and the WBFs and all this. And then all the interims and silvers and regulars and all this sort of... It's just, look, what I'm probably trying to say is it looks ridiculous when you get someone that gets up in the ring who's won his fight and he struggles to hold up the amount of belts that he's got. That's ridiculous. It really is. And look, there's a lot of fights in Australia that probably meet that. Not that it's their fault, because I know it's all about rankings and each belt gives you X amount of points. There's
a few.
Rankings. But when you're struggling, you've got to have your cornerman in there to help you hold up all your belts. That shows me that there's way too many belts out there at all different levels.
Do you agree it should go back to one belt?
I agree that look, it's never going to happen. In a perfect world, we'd be like the UFC, where there's one champion and they dictate who fights who. That'd be great, but that's never going to happen.
Let's go this way. Can I have 30?
Yep.
Give me a minute to explain what I'd do.
45.
Let's just go. We scrap the IBF. We scrap the WBO. We scrap the WBC. We scrap the 4 major belts, and we go with computer organisation belts like the tennis, and it's a box rec belt. So in order for you to get a world title, you've got to be in the top rank 20, say, on box rec, and you fight, whatever, and then you've got one champion in every division, and in order to fight for those belts, you've got to get in the top 20, say, of box. Say you call it box rec or universal situation where it's non-profit.
Yeah.
And there's no sanction fees paid, and all the money just goes to the fighters. How does that sound?
Well, it'd be great in a perfect world. Unfortunately, you just had the key words, no sanctioning fees required. Obviously, it's all about the money, so it's not going to happen. But I suppose the closest to that, though, Tazzie's the Ring magazine title, isn't it? Because that's universally regarded as, if you've got that belt, you're the world champion. But that's what I'm saying. That's the state of where we are, because it's not even a sanctioned belt, and it's regarded as the idea of who's number one.
It is. Everyone takes notice of the ring champion. I mean, so obviously they've unified the division, or they've beaten the main guy. I mean, it's usually beating the main guy. You're elevated as being.
But they're also talking about having PBC having their own world champion, and I mean, it's just got to the ridiculous stuff. Look,
that'll just be next level if they do that.
End of the day, it's not going to change. We understand that, but geez, wouldn't it be great if the pressure was put on by the fans and even the promoters by saying, you know what, stick your top. We're not going to pay you $400,000 sanctioning fees. We're just going to put the fight on and back our fighters that they're going to sell. And forget your titles and make a stand that way, because it just does the fighters no good. But anyway, we've got to move on. We're going to be here all night. We've got one segment left, and I think we all know what that is. Tazzie, you're starting to fade out there, mate. You're all right there?
No.
You too.
Tazzie's ready to go. I'm like Tyson Fury here, Tazzie. I've had a big week. You've got to come in here.
The energy levels are starting to...
I heard you had a big one at Showgirls all week. They open up especially for you, mate, at bar 20.
All right, I'm starting to get a little bit more colour in your face now, mate. So here we go. It's time for the Boxing Deep Dive Quiz. Tazzie Brown versus Peter Maniatis. And there's Pete with the belt from last week. He's the reigning champion. Just want to make sure you can both hear me okay and see me. Or more so hear me, of course. Because we've got 10 questions. 5 Australian-based questions, and then 4 plus who am I at the end. So just to recap again, you must call out your name. You must wait for me to say your name. If I need more information, I'll ask for it. If one of you gets it wrong, the other one will then have an opportunity to have an easy crack at it. So are we ready? Tazzie, are we right there, mate? Take a deep breath. All right, number one.
I feel like when I was fighting for the Australian team, I feel like that nervous for this tonight, mate. I feel like I'm going back to 99 at AIS.
All right, here we go. In what year did Lester Ellis come out of retirement to fight Anthony Mundine?
Peter.
Yes, Peter.
2002.
Correct. And we all know how that ended, unfortunately. It was a sad night for Aussie boxing.
Number 2. Have no more Lester Ellis questions, mate? No more Lester Ellis questions, because Pete knows him back to front.
Okay. Well, it was more of an Anthony Mundine question, wasn't it? Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Number 2. Who did Lionel Rose lose his world bantamweight title to?
Tazzie.
Peter.
Tazzie.
Ruben Olivares.
Yes, the great Mexican Ruben Olivares. All right, number 3. In what city did Jeff Horn make his professional debut?
Peter.
Tazzie.
Melbourne.
Yes, it was actually on an Adam Wilcott card at the Altona All-Stars Reception Centre, I think it was.
I was there.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't actually know that myself. All right, number 4. In what Commonwealth Games did Jeff Harding compete?
Tazzie.
Yes, Tazzie. 5, 4,
86.
Yes, Edinburgh, that's the one. No head guards back then either. Number 5, sorry, where are we at? Was it 2-1?
No, 3-1.
3-1 for Tazzie. Come on, Pete. All right, last Aussie question. What Australian boxer fought Cassius Clay twice as an amateur?
Tazzie.
Yes, Tazzie.
Tony Madigan.
Yes. Look out, he's come out swinging this week, Pete. Widely regarded by a lot of people that the greatest amateur that we've ever had. I suppose that's up for debate. Number 6. Who did Larry Holmes stop in 13 rounds in their 82 super fight?
Peter.
Yes, Peter.
Jerry Cooney.
Yes, Jerry Cooney. 4-2. What was the nickname of Roger Mayweather?
Tazzie.
Peter.
Tazzie.
The Black Mamba.
The Black Mamba. 5-2. All right. Number 8. Who did Vinny Pazienza fight in a memorable trilogy?
Tazzie.
Yes, Tazzie.
Roberto Duran.
Wrong, Pete. He had 3 memorable fights against this guy.
Hector Camacho.
No, Greg Haugen.
Houghton. Yeah.
3 fights, 3 absolute wars they were. They absolutely hated each other. So what's that? Still, is it 5-3? 5-2.
5-2.
All right. In what city did the first Sugar Ray Leonard Roberto Duran fight take place?
Tazzie.
Peter.
Yes, Tazzie.
Montreal.
Yes, Montreal. Well, that gives him the win. Let's see if we can get the who am I question. All right, who am I? I was born on January 12th, 1944 in Beaufort, South Carolina. I had a stellar amateur career that included winning an Olympic gold medal. I turned pro in 1965 and won the World Championship in 1970.
Peter.
Yes, Peter.
No, I wrong one.
All right, we didn't actually answer it, so we'll keep going. After winning one of the biggest fights in boxing history, I lost a total 3 fights later in a stunning upset. Yes, Pete.
No, I'm thinking.
Okay. All right, we still haven't answered it, so we'll keep going.
I'm going to go.
Yes.
Tazzie. Smoking Joe Fraser.
Yes, Smoking Joe Fraser. So I'll continue what Tazzie. Leave your clothes on, Tazzie. I'll just finish the Who Am I. He had probably the most intense trilogy ever with an all-time great, which was Muhammad Ali. After failing to avenge the previous losses in big fights, I retired in 1981 with a 32-4-1 record. I had a son who tried to emulate my achievements, but unfortunately he ran into Mike Tyson and was knocked out in the first round. I'm best known for my killer left hook, and apart from Rocky, I'm the most famous fighter ever to come out of Philadelphia. Unfortunately died in 2011. His nickname was Smokin'. He is, of course, the one and only Smokin' Joe Fraser.
I got that 10 minutes ago.
When we do a question of stopped, Lynden, how much clues? You would have just said smoking.
Smoking was the very last clue there.
So anyone really would have got that.
Pretty much. I tried to do the hardest clues at the start and then get easier and easier and easier.
I knew it straight away. I was just waiting a little bit, but I knew that he won the Olympics.
Yeah,
and I knew it was a year after the Olympics. So, yeah.
Yeah, he was a legend of Smoking Joe. So,
Peter, stay away from the...
I always thought he was from Philadelphia. That's born there. That's when you said Carolina. Did you say he was born in Carolina?
Born in South Carolina. He was from Philadelphia, but he was born in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's what threw me.
I threw that in there because I had said he was born in Philadelphia. I think it would have been over right there and then.
Yeah, I would have known.
I think I was on fire tonight, and Pete was a bit tired from the strippers, mate. So, like, stay at home, Pete. Go back and read all the books, mate. And I think I was pound for pound tonight. All
right, well, that's 3-2 for Tazzie, and we'll go again next week. So, boys, thanks heaps for being part of it. A really great show as usual. I hope our internet's a little bit better next week. It sort of faded a bit like Peter did towards the quiz there, the later it went. But no, all good, guys. Thanks again. And we'll go again next week.
Karaoke soon, Peter.
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to choose a song. Thanks, guys. See you.